Someone has to give for another to take. That's the underlying premise in bribery and corruption, which recently Transparency International Sri Lanka put under the microscope. The research looks at the role the private sector plays in facilitating corruption, something that has long been ignored. This study is possibly the first time in Sri Lanka's private sector's history that corruption has been illustrated through alleged experiences and examples. With me today was the team lead of that research team. She's the former program manager, private sector of Transparency International Sri Lanka, Nicole Elias. What is the main reason for corruption to perpetuate within the private sector?
What we're seeing through the report is there is no one answer fits all. It would really depend on which sector you're working in, which level you are in within the company. So the higher you are, the less chances you would have to see corruption happening or be approached with a bribe, for example. But always it's the entry level staff, the ones who have to face are going to the government departments that could be asked for a bribe. They are at higher risk. So that's what we've tried to capture here to kind of find those institutions. But also we'd see that when you take within the private sector, so company to company, it might be at a much more senior level that they're colluding, very knowingly colluding with other companies. For example, if there's a government tender happening, you say, okay, I'm going to bid this much, you bid this much, let's split the profits of the subcontract to each other. So we could see that kind of corruption happening as well.
So let's look at the other side. Has the private sector actually put in any measures to combat bribery and corruption?
It has been done by companies, but also by chambers of commerce, which is really great. So one good thing that a lot of companies do is having this good anti-corruption policy. But something we always say is having an anti-corruption policy doesn't mean anything if you don't ensure that everyone in your company understands it, from the lowest level of staff to the janitorial staff, right? If you're expecting everyone to follow the same rules and regulations, you need to ensure the policy is available in the local languages. You need to ensure you're doing trainings, and several companies have done this already. They've engaged in ABC trainings, anti-bribery and corruption trainings, awareness programs. Some have done even screensaver campaigns where they put out slogans. So it's constantly reminding you of what needs to happen. And also, I think what a lot of companies have done, which is great, which is showing through, is setting that tone from the top. Some chambers of commerce have introduced policies, so the members have to sign on to these policies to be a member. So those are some of the great initiatives that have been done in order to mitigate corruption.
So, what do you think needs to be done to nip corruption in the bud?
The idea of eradicating corruption is something we might not see in our lifetime. It might be in our children's or our children's lifetime, because it's something that happens everywhere. We need to start with ourselves as well. So if all of us are pointing fingers at the private sector, the public sector, saying, oh, they are corrupt, they're the big problem. And if you go and bribe the police officer to get out of a speeding ticket, you're not really helping the problem either. And corruption in Sri Lanka is so normalized that it's almost hard to get out of it. So teaching your kids at home about what's right and wrong, in schools, making them understand. We don't even have, ethics or integrity or like law that's taught in school. Those things are important to learn, because changing a certain generation now might not work, but we can start young and perpetuate that. But I would say we need to also start with ourselves. So I would say that's the change we need to look for.
So, Nicole, after publishing this study, what is your verdict? Is there still hope for us, or are we beyond redemption?
There is always hope. I like to be a little more optimistic. I know some people might have a more cynical view. We often get asked when doing trainings or workshops, corruption can't be eradicated, you're wasting your time. And then I say, you know what, we've been doing this for a long time and we have seen incremental changes. Even if you take the Aragale that happened, we saw citizens coming together and understanding the power they hold. They asked for a change, a system change. They wanted to eradicate corruption. That was something that came from the people. We've been talking about it for years, but it was so nice to see that people have also understood the importance of this. If you take a country like Thailand, for example, There is this initiative called the Private Sector Coalition Against Corruption. It was an initiative that it started with 23 companies. They got together. They decided, you know what? It's difficult to operate in such a corrupt market. Let's just a few of us will get together. We'll try to do something. So they started off with just 23 companies. They came up with policies that they should all follow, guidelines that they should all adhere to. And now it has over 1,000 companies in Thailand that have joined, and they're expanding and they're doing really well. So if it could happen in a country like Thailand, which has a similar systemic corruption context to Sri Lanka, it can definitely happen here. We have tried establishing such kind of a coalition. We have something called the Business Integrity Club, which we recently started, which has about 20 odd companies. They're hoping to expand as well. So that would be an opportunity for private sector companies to come together to work towards this goal of fighting corruption. There is hope for the private sector for sure in Sri Lanka. There's hope for a corruption-free Sri Lanka. It just won't happen tomorrow for sure. It'll take definitely a long time, but we are hopeful that we get to it.